And what is your sexual orientation?
Excuse me? It's none of your business. I'm lesbian. My name is Michele Dermer, and I have 2 daughters. One is 15 and one is 19 and a half.
My name is Paige Kendall. I go to UC Davis and I'm a rower for the UC Davis women's rowing team.
So I was born in 1985 to a lesbian couple. They conceived me using donor insemination. I was born just like most other babies 9 months later.
So we moved to Mill Valley to be in a more accepting environment than in San Anselmo, where our neighbors wouldn't let our kids play with their kids, because I believe that they were opposed to their children being involved with children that had 2 moms.
The only time I ever get a little nervous in talking about my family is right when I meet people. I can't assume that everybody's pretty liberal and understanding, as I did when I was younger. So whenever somebody asks, like, what does your mom do and then what does your father do, I usually just say, like, oh, I only know my mother, or I just say, oh, he's a geologist, which is what my other mother does. I also just don't see a need to say anything, you know, to complicate it, because who knows how they'll react.
I didn't have a lot of trouble coming from a queer family when I was a kid. But I think it's worth mentioning that I didn't talk about my family. I didn't talk about my mom being lesbian or my dad being transgender. And that's because I was enduring all kinds of teasing that had nothing to do with sexual orientation or gender identity. And I just didn't want to put it out there. I thought of it as a liability. It made me feel like I couldn't be open about who I was or the family I had.
I didn't even realize my family was different from everybody else's until 3rd or 4th grade. I remember realizing that everybody I had ever really met all had a mother and a father.
I never thought that my parents were abnormal. I think I knew pretty early on that my parents weren't average.
I was not worried about what people would think, but people will always give you their opinions, and it's not always positive.
I think that my life is pretty much shaped by that experience of feeling like I couldn't talk about it and being scared, even though it's not something I think about very often.
The difficulty is some people's uncomfortableness with the situation.
Well, there was never a time where I was uncomfortable about it. I think it was also because my parents were very strong about how they talked about it, so they would never like talk about how it might be like unacceptable. You know, it was just, as far as I was concerned, it was perfectly acceptable. I can relate completely to everybody I meet, you know, who has a normal family in terms of what we went through when we were children.
I think that raising children, if you're 2 moms or 2 dads, is really just as difficult and challenging and wonderful as if you are a heterosexual couple. So
we interviewed this priest one time, and he was saying how children, in his view, children who grew up with same-sex parents were missing a lot of stuff, weren't going to be able to be capable adults. And I just think that's interesting, because I am a student athlete at a Division I school. I have a 3.6, and I don't see how he could say, I have perfectly good relationships. I don't see how he could say that I will not be a capable adult. If anything, I'm more capable than him.
if you think about it a little bit, maybe it's the people that are anti-gay would be even more strongly anti-gay for people that had, kids, because they're going to somehow influence their children. And I guess they're right. I would hope that I have influenced my children, that they'll be less anti-gay than some other kids. My parents loved me. I love my kids. That's all there is to it, yeah.
When the sun comes